Have you ever wondered what the KGB is? Let's dive right in. The KGB stands for Komitet Gosudarstvenoi Bezopasnosti, a mouthful that translates to Committee for State Security. This formidable organization set up shop in a now iconic structure at Lubyanka Square in Moscow, not Red Square as some might think. Today, that same building houses the FSB, the Federal Security Service of the Russian Federation, carrying on some of the same duties and garnering a reputation to match. And here's a fun fact: the current head of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, spent a good chunk of his career within the KGB, serving as a foreign intelligence officer from 1975 to 1991. But the KGB's reach was not limited to Russia alone. It extended into the satellite republics of the Soviet Union and beyond. The KGB's influence extended beyond Russia, reaching into the satellite republics of the Soviet Union and beyond. The KGB's influence wasn't just confined within the borders of the Soviet Union, it also reached the United States. Under the leadership of Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev, the KGB was born, emerging from the shadows of its precursor, the People's Commissariat for State Security, or NKGB. Now, the NKGB was no stranger to espionage. During World War II, under the reign of Joseph Stalin, NKGB spies were so adept that it was said Stalin knew more about the military activities of his allies, like the United States, France, and Great Britain, than they knew about the Soviet Union's military. U.S. officials and leaders within the Office of Strategic Services, which later evolved into the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, were certainly wary of Soviet espionage activities during the war. There were even whispers of NKGB spies infiltrating the nuclear weapon research facility in Los Alamos, New Mexico. However, these concerns amplified significantly once the war concluded. The KGB's influence on world affairs arguably peaked during the early part of the Cold War. This period was marked by diplomatic and strategic tensions between the Soviet Union and the United States, along with its Western European allies. But establishing a foothold in the United States was no easy task for the Soviet spy services. The late 1940s and 1950s were the era of the Red Scare in America, a time when U.S. officials and law enforcement leaders were deeply worried about communist infiltration into American affairs, both domestically and internationally. This led to the congressional hearings led by Senator Joseph McCarthy, who sought to identify and suppress communist influence in American society. The House Un-American Activities Committee, HUAC, and these events are credited with weakening the U.S. branch of the Communist Party, thereby hampering KGB recruitment. Despite the Red Scare and increased scrutiny, the KGB managed to establish its influence in the United States. They were not easily dissuaded, and they would ultimately succeed in recruiting individuals like U.S. Naval Officer John Anthony Walker Jr. and CIA Officer Aldrich Ames, both of whom played significant roles in the KGB's operations in the United States. The Red Scare of the late 1940s and 1950s brought about a significant challenge to the KGB's activities in the United States. This period, marked by intense anti-communist sentiment, saw U.S. officials and law enforcement leaders become particularly vigilant against communist infiltration into American affairs. The hysteria was so profound that it led to the congressional hearings headed by Senator Joseph McCarthy. His relentless endeavor was to identify and thwart communist influence in American society. These fervent actions, along with the House Un-American Activities Committee, are credited with severely weakening the U.S. branch of the Communist Party. This, in turn, hampered the KGB's recruitment efforts. The Red Scare, as a result, played a crucial role in shaping the Cold War narrative, with its influence extending far beyond the borders of the United States. Despite these hurdles, the KGB remained undeterred, proving its resilience and adaptability in the face of adversity. Even with these obstacles, the KGB was not easily deterred. Despite the challenges, the KGB managed to recruit within the United States. One of their most significant recruits was John Anthony Walker Jr., a U.S. naval officer who joined the KGB in the late 1960s. Accused and convicted of espionage, Walker provided the Soviets with classified naval communications, enabling them to track ship movements and other activities. This dangerous game of cat and mouse continued until his arrest in the 1980s, but the KGB didn't stop there. They also recruited Aldrich Ames, a CIA officer who would become one of their most valuable assets. Ames revealed the locations and activities of numerous CIA officers stationed worldwide, causing significant damage to American intelligence operations. He was eventually arrested and convicted of espionage in 1994 and remains in prison to this day. The KGB's influence and operations reached far and wide, leaving a significant mark on history.